the best series in the playoffs by far. Another banger of a game last night between the Knicks and the Sixers. Sixers take game 5, 112-106 in an overtime thriller. Knicks still up 3-2, but the Sixers are the first team in NBA history to win a playoff game down 6 with 30 seconds to go in regulation. Had never happened before. I thought it was over. I emailed you guys on our chain and said that I thought it was over. And then I guess, Bill, that it was the all-time reverse jinx because mere seconds later, here you go. You can see the timestamps on this. 2 minutes later, we're going into overtime because Tyrese Maxey hit 7 points in the final 25 seconds to send it to overtime, and then they win it in overtime. Gang, we got a series.
First of all, let me just say, you're a fake fan because you were already going ahead and packing it up and, you know, waving the white flag, and we have the evidence and we have the paper trail, if you will. That could never be me. I'm fighting to the death. And I'm going all the way. If I'm going down with this ship swinging. You're already waving the white flag and saying, listen, you know, let's go ahead and see how we can discuss the Knicks winning this series. You should be ashamed of yourself, John. Let's focus on that first. You should be ashamed of yourself. Shame.
You know, in 141 games prior to that, it had never happened. It took 142 for the Sixers to pull it off. So that's okay. I'll take the shame on that one. Bill, from the outside here, Tyrese Maxey played 52 minutes. I mean, he went 17 for 30, 46 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists. The Tyrese Maxey game, they needed every bit of that.
It's insane. I knew that the series would come down to which player, which team's superstar would take over late in the game. I just didn't realize that the Sixers superstar was young Mr. Maxey rather than Joel Embiid, because he saved that dude's bacon. We'll see what happens in this series. I still think the Sixers can win it. Obviously, the Knicks can win it. But that 4-point, Ash, I'm just saying, like, this has been a close, as a neutral perspective, as somebody who's already lost a bunch of money to somebody else on this show, betting on sports, and I'm not doing it again, it can go either way. You're right. Tip of the cap to Maxey. I didn't think he could top the 4-point play for just sheer guts and excellence under pressure. And then Hart misses one of those 2 free throws. And obviously, we talked about it. Maxey comes down and drills a long 3. That dude's a baller. Brunson's a baller. I know Embiid had a great statistical game, turned the ball over a lot. But, Ash, I'm just saying, maybe you guys are going to win, but you have to fear Tyrese Maxey as much or more perhaps than Joel Embiid.
There's no maybe we're going to win. Listen, the Knicks, I've been saying since the beginning, Knicks in 6. So we're right on schedule. This is what I've been predicting. Look, I didn't predict the absolute just domino effect of disaster that transpired down the stretch and in overtime by the Knicks, right? It started with Josh Hart missing 2 very crucial free throws, which ultimately would have put the game away. It would have been a 2-possession game, and Tyrese Maxey's logo 3-pointer would have never sent it into overtime. It would have been that. So Josh Hart got in his own way by missing free throws, and the word is free throws. Emphasis on the word free. Make them. Take them. They're free points. So that's that. Second of all, down the stretch, there was a lot of miscommunication from the Knicks, right? Both teams were turning the ball over a lot in this game. I do think the 76ers did a little bit of a better job down the stretch, kind of capitalizing off of those turnovers and making them into points and second chance opportunities. They were doing a better job on the boards, especially late in the fourth quarter. Also, their defensive scheme switched up late in the fourth quarter, which was making it hard for Brunson to kind of do what Brunson wants to do. But again, I give credit where credit is due to Tyrese Maxey. He played an absolutely phenomenal game, 46 points from him. I'm a big fan of him. I like his mentality. You can't teach that kind of mentality. He's a dog, and I'm going to give him his flowers. But I'm not as nervous as I think a lot of Knicks fans are this morning, because the Knicks shot themselves in the foot. It wasn't like Philly outplayed them. They were keeping themselves in the game throughout the whole game. I'll give them that. They never quit. But the Knicks got in their own way with turnovers, got in their own way with missing free throws, got in their own way with lack of communication late in the fourth quarter and ultimately in overtime. And that's not something that we have seen from this team throughout this series and throughout this season. I still think Knicks in 6. I still think that they're the deeper team, and I'm not worried. I'm just upset that we couldn't go ahead and celebrate on our own court, and now we have to do it in our second home court, which is going to be not as fun, you know?
It's interesting that you mention all the things that happened for the Knicks for it to fall apart, because it was the exact same thing, but in reverse in game 2. I mean, the Sixers did the exact same thing where they got in their way and things didn't work out for them. And then it was this classic game where the Knicks ended up winning a game down by 5 with 25 seconds left, which had only happened, a handful of times in the last 25 years. So for both of these teams to experience that on both sides is really, really amazing. This series has been absolute bonkers, but it's been ridiculous. But I want to mention too. Yeah, game 2 ball don't lie. But when you're talking about the Knicks getting in their own way, I thought they made 2 critical errors at the end of regulation. Number one, you're up 3. We talk about this on this show a lot. Producer Aaron's a big fan of it. I'm a big proponent of fouling when you're up 3. Eat up some of that clock, put them at the line, then they're going to foul you. You're going to eat up even more clock. Instead, they let Maxey get ahead of steam, and he takes one from the logo and he drains it. But beyond that, I thought it was very curious that they decided to have their best defender, OG Anunoby, off in the corner, standing there face guarding Tobias Harris. Like, what are you doing? I thought that was a gift from Tibbs, and I thank him for it.
No, it was definitely poor defensive and offensive schemes from the Knicks in the last few minutes of regulation. And it's interesting too, because like I said, the 76ers did a really good job at pre-switching as often as they could, because it kept a more mobile defender on Brunson, which made it harder for him to, again, cook like he wanted to cook and really needed to cook because of those crucial missed free throws from Hart, and also crucial missed free throws from Jalen Brunson as well. He kind of bricked up a couple as well, which again could have been the difference maker in the game. And like I said, I will give credit to the 76ers. They were doing a good job on the boards, getting those second and third chance opportunities, which ultimately bridged the gap even more. I don't think you'll see the same mistakes from the Knicks in Game 6. It is very hard to close out a game. It shouldn't be hard to close out a game at home, though. Ultimately, you should be able to go ahead, and when the chips fall, you should be on the winning end of that equation, because your role players tend to play better at home. You have the energy of the crowd, the familiarity of your home court. But again, going back to Philly is not a death sentence for the Knicks, because as we saw in the game prior in Philly, the home court advantage is not 100% there, and the Knicks are able to go ahead and win in Philly. This has been an interesting series for definitely, but I do think that the Knicks will go ahead and pull this out and close it out in 6.
Ash, I think you make a great point. It is so hard to close out these series, and it was for Tibbs too, right? I mean, as John talked about, his decision-making at the end and what they did with Anunoby, you got to foul Maxey before he crosses the half-court line. But I'll say this about where the series is and what could happen, because momentum is so powerful. Yes, the Knicks took over the Sixers arena last time. This is a weekday game. It's not a Sunday game. It's not as easy for people to get off work, jump on the train, go to Philly. If you want to come back, you're coming back in the middle of the night or get in a hotel. It doesn't mean people won't be there. But I was in New York when that happened, and there were just people who were walking around getting ready to go to the Sixers game, because it's such an easy commute. It's an if. But this game has come down to, almost every game has come down to a shot here or there, a poor call here or there, poor decision-making by Nick Nurse not getting the timeout in Game 2, and then Tibbs not really understanding how to navigate that final play where Maxey hit that ridiculous 3, which means it's close, which means it really can go either way. And if the Sixers win Game 6, to me, the weight of Knicks' futility for a generation, the pressure of letting the 3-1 series lead go away, the small margins, I think it flips very quickly to Philadelphia's small advantage. So obviously they're all huge, but if Philly can just win at home, I love the Sixers' chances going forward.
Real quick before we go to break, John, listen, Penn Station would have to flood for Knicks fans to not make their way to Wells Fargo Arena. And even then, if it flooded, they would just swim to Philly. Trust me when I say there will be no shortage of Knicks fans, because it is a weekday. People are probably already putting in their notice that they're taking off of work on Thursday.